What's going on, everyone? So I've been requested a few times by subscribers and friends to make a video of things we're gonna need when turboing. So I'm gonna go ahead and go over a few things with you. So obviously you'll need the turbo kit or build your own turbo, manifold, wastegate, dump tube, downpipe, turbo, fittings, and all the other little things, which I have a video on how I turboed. I don't have a video on how I did this exact setup, but the setup that was right before this one, oil feed line and stuff like that. One of the other things you're going to need are colder spark plugs. What that means is they don't detonate as easy because they don't stick as far out in the cylinders. These are BKR 7E IX11s. These are iridium plugs. I got them at O'Reilly's. You can tell them that part number I just said, and they can get you some of these spark plugs. For a Civic, that's what I always use. They're a 7. Factory plugs are a 5, so this is 2 steps colder, and it helps with detonation. You can go 8, I believe, is like the coldest one that I know of for a Civic, unless you get like a pro racing plug. But yeah, in my case, I like to have a new coil, ignition coil, because when you're turboing, you want everything to be good. I run 93 octane because that's what we have at the pump here. 91 octane is acceptable. Anything lower than that, you risk running into detonation, which can explode your pistons and ring lands, and it's just not good. Another thing is injectors. You will want a good set of injectors, like 525 cc's or what I'm throwing in here. I have 1000 cc's, but that's for whenever I get more boost and later on down the road. You'll need a 4-bar map sensor, which I know 4-bar is a very high boost pressure, but they make a Honda 4-bar map sensor. You just unscrew these, bolt it in place, and you're good up to 4 bars of pressure, which I don't know the exact, but I think it's like 40 or 50 psi, maybe 60. I don't know exactly. You'll definitely want a blow-off valve, whether it's a recirculated blow-off valve or a vent to atmosphere like this one. You'll want that because when you close the throttle plate, all the air pressure will back up and it'll try to go back into the turbo, spinning the turbo the other way. That's not good because that can damage your shaft and all kinds of other stuff. But yeah, as for the blow-off valve, it's just a vacuum line that I've got ran to a T-piece in between the fuel pressure regulator and here. Now, a lot of other people don't like doing it here, but that's where I like doing it. It's worked perfectly fine for me. There's also a nipple on the back. But if you don't have a spot for this, you can take the intake manifold off. You can drill a hole and get a fitting and basically tap it to where you can screw the fitting in and you can have an extra port. Don't mind this, I just have this blocked off. I need to get one of the actual nipple fitting plugs that go here, but this works perfectly fine and it doesn't leak any air. But yeah, as for the wastegate, we have a line right here ran down to the pipe. I had this ran up here originally, but the wastegate was actually opening at idle. Whenever I give it gas and build up boost pressure, it would shut and then slowly creep open how it's supposed to, but it was open all the time. So I ran it down here because that's too much vacuum, and there's no spot on my turbo, so I ended up just drilling a hole in the pipe, took the pipe off, drilled a hole in it, and put a fitting that's kind of like this one up here, but down there, and I use JB Weld around it to make sure it doesn't leak, and it's working perfectly fine. Another thing you're going to need for sure is a tune, and in order to do that, you can get your stock ECU chipped if it's an OBD1 ECU. You can convert the 96 to 2000 Civic to hold an OBD1 ECU, a P05, P06, P28, P72, or whatever it is. You can get those chipped and put them in here and adjust the tune. Now, I highly recommend taking it to a professional to do all that stuff because you can blow these engines super easy by not knowing what you're doing. People have just got away with putting an FMU. An FMU is a fuel management unit. You can get them on eBay pretty cheap. They're basically just fuel pressure regulators that each 1 psi of boost it sees, it ups the fuel pressure, allows more fuel into your engine, keeps it from blowing up. But that doesn't do anything for your timing, so you'd actually have to manually retard the timing. But it's easier to just get an ECU and get a tune on it professionally and have it safe, and you push way more power that way. This was automatic and I was driving it around for a while untuned, but I do not recommend that to anyone. That was just temporarily until I could get it manual swapped, which obviously now it's manual swapped, and the The manual ECU won't work on the auto because the auto needs the computer to tell it when to shift. So that's why you can't just throw a manual one in it, tune it, and be good to go, because the transmission won't know when to shift and it'll explode. But the automatic transmission did handle boost quite well. I wasn't fully getting on it for long periods of time, that's why it didn't blow up. But I highly recommend at least an FMU until you get a tune, but I just wouldn't drive it untuned at all. That'd be the best bet, safest bet. Another thing you're definitely going to need is a boost gauge, vacuum gauge. This one's from Harbor Freight. It was super cheap and it works really well. At 0, that means you don't have any vacuum or boost, which when it's off pretty much. When it's idling, it should be right around here. It'll just be running vacuum. When you start flooring it, it'll go back up to 0, and when you start building boost pressure, it'll start rising up. Depending on the condition of the engine and if you've got forged internals or not, boost pressure is something I can't tell you how much you're going to need, because I've ran 13, 14 pounds on a completely stock D series and it held up fine. Then I've also ran 12 pounds and blew one up. So it's kind of just hit and miss, and you got to get a proper tune for that. Another thing you're going to need is an air-fuel ratio gauge, which this will tell you your air-fuel ratios. You'll want to know that, especially when you're tuning, because if not, you're going to be tuning blind. A wideband gauge is must-need. This is an innovative one. They work pretty dang good. AEM is my go-to one because it's pretty easy to set up. You just basically put the gauge in, run one white wire to the ECU's O2 sensor input, and you're pretty much good to go. But these right here are very, very needed when tuning. This here's a narrowband gauge. They're not very accurate, but they do work to give you kind of an idea of lean, rich, and when it's right here in the middle, that's where it's optimal. But I would highly recommend getting an actual wideband gauge, because these narrowband gauges, they just make a light show. This one's not hooked up and it is for sale. If anyone's interested, definitely message me on Instagram.com/Texas Honda Channel. But yeah, I mean, it does work. It's just not accurate. One of the other things to have when turboing is a decent oil. I've actually experienced 2 really good oils that work amazing for me. Rotella T6 is one of them. It's not designed for gasoline engines, but I've used it with no issues, no adverse side effects, and it's pretty cheap. At Walmart, it's like $21 for a 5-gallon jug. Synthetic oil, for some reason, spools the turbos really easy. A lot of other people use Royal Purple. I personally don't. I'm not paying $30 for 5 quarts of oil, and most people I've seen use it in their Hondas have had rod knocks afterwards. I don't know if it's just a coincidence, but I'm not willing to take the risk to find out. The other oil is Supertex, high mileage, full synthetic, really good oil. They have tons of additives in it that'll help protect your engine. And Project Farm has even done videos on this, so if you haven't checked out Project Farm on YouTube, definitely consider doing it. He has a lot of awesome tests where he's tested these oils against other high-dollar oils, and the tests were pretty amazing. So definitely check that out. But that's basically it for this video. I just wanted to go over these things. I hope it wasn't too boring. I definitely have other videos on this channel, so if you're new here, definitely consider subscribing and checking out my other content. But I'm going to get off here. I have some other things to do, so in the meantime, check out my other videos and leave me a comment below. Let me know if this was informative enough for you. I'll see you guys in the next video. Until then, God bless.